This episode is sponsored by Stitch Fix.
Over the past few years, we've featured a number of different variations on the general concept of a jetpack, which often could be better described as wingsuits, flyboards, or jet suits, depending on the design, but they're all pretty damn cool to see in action. It's the stuff of science fiction, and people are out there doing it in real life.
Not like those stupid hoverboards.
Yeah, these things actually hover. A little over a year ago, Frankie Zapata managed to cross the English Channel using a jet-powered flyboard on his second attempt. And before that, he was seen at the 2019 Bastille Day parade in Paris, flying around holding a rifle as the soldier of the future. Very cool. And the U.S. military has even tested a variation on the Zapata flyboard for possible applications on the battlefield. So far, it doesn't seem like flying soldiers, though, are a very large priority for any military, despite how cool it looks. But a recent different variation on the jetpack concept has shown some promise in search and rescue.
That's cool. The one with the flying soldier is just like, have you ever seen skeet shooters?
Yeah.
There's a lot less things to get behind when you're in the air.
Yeah.
A very clearly defined target. So you could see why they wouldn't focus on it. But search and rescue, now there's a practical application.
Yeah.
Richard Browning's Gravity flight suit is more of a traditional jetpack design than Zapata's flyboard. But in addition to the jet engine mounted on the wearer's back, there's two more jet engines mounted on each arm. It gives it a very Iron Man-esque vibe. Gravity Industries regularly posts pretty awesome videos of Richard Browning and other test pilots flying around incredibly fast in their insane flight suits. But their most recent upload shows off a seemingly practical application for it, which is getting paramedics to injured people in rough terrain much more quickly than paramedics would be able to on foot, which is great, especially where we live. There's a lot of these accidents frequently in the mountainous regions.
Yeah, anywhere there's hills, people are gonna sprain their ankles and break their legs, and these poor paramedics gotta hoof it up a hill before they can even start doing anything about it.
Or rappel down from a helicopter.
Yeah. So this demonstration, it was done in the UK's Mountainous Lake District in collaboration with a local air ambulance service who does a lot of search and rescue in the area. They had two people placed high up on a large hill far away from any roads, simulating a situation where a person has injured themselves in a serious fall. The ambulance service, they show up nearby in a car, they suit up one of their paramedics in the Gravity flight suit, and he just takes off in the general direction of the people in distress. He's able to reach them in just 90 seconds, and then he assesses the injuries and performs first aid before lighting a flare to call in a rescue helicopter. This all happens obviously much, much faster than it would have if paramedics had tried to reach the destination on foot, as evidenced by just how much terrain he manages to cross in that jet suit.
I thought of a problem here in California when maybe I misspoke with the efficiency of this jet suit here in California, because while someone's getting rescued because they've broken their ankle, the jet man is just lighting our forest on fire.
Well, I don't know. I've watched a few videos of this suit in particular, and apparently with jet engines, they're only really flammable super close. You
just got to shut him off at a distance that won't break all of his bones if he falls.
But knowing California, I mean, all it takes is not even a spark. All it takes is just a sneeze, and our forests are on fire for weeks.
You look at a dry plant wrong, and it lights on fire, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyways, the press release about this thing, it's from the ambulance service GNAAS. It says that it would have taken 25 minutes on foot and been an arduous climb. So 90 seconds is definitely an improvement, especially when the clock is ticking with serious injuries. GNAAS Ganas, I guess, the director of operations there, said, "The biggest advantage is its speed. If the idea takes off, the flying paramedic will be armed with a medical kit with strong pain relief for walkers who may have suffered fractures and a defibrillator for those who have maybe suffered a heart attack. In a jetpack, what might have taken up to an hour to reach the patient may only take a few minutes, and that could mean the difference between life and death."
So this shows a lot of promise for a practical application for a technology that for the most part has previously, it's been one of those things that makes you say, wow, holy shit, but then it otherwise doesn't seem really all that useful. But also, everyone involved here, they readily admit that this is a long ways from being ready for prime time, and there's a few pretty big roadblocks to getting there. The suit itself costs over $400,000, and its flight time is still limited to between 5 and 10 minutes. And perhaps the biggest roadblock is the fact that in order to actually use the suit, especially this design, you need to be in incredibly good shape. You have to have arms that are strong enough to support your entire body weight for the entire length of the flight. Otherwise, the jets overpower you and you lose control. The guy who invented this suit, like, he does like flags and like handstands and shit like that. He's one of the few people who can fly it.
I mean, it would be very funny to put someone who's very weak inside this suit and just see what happens.
Yeah, it would turn you into one of those like
inflatable.
Yeah, come buy a car.
Yeah,
we got used cars, new cars.
Boonk.
Yeah, but yeah, it's still pretty cool to imagine a real life Iron Man someday, maybe doing real life heroism out in the world. But
yeah,
for now, yeah, you're just gonna have to hoof it.
Yeah. But enough about the technology of tomorrow. Let's look at the technology of today. This is the time of year when bigger tech companies hold annual press conferences to unveil their latest gear. And not too long ago, these kind of events were a whole lot more exciting, though. Apple already held their event 2 weeks ago, and none of it was really even worth a mention on this show, other than if you're a very, very old person, the Apple Watch, it's essentially a high-tech version of that life alert.
Yeah.
Like, it'll tell you if you're dying.
It's a jitterbug for your wrist.
It calls your doctor, essentially.
Yeah.
Their blood oxygen level is very low. If you don't come save them now, they will die.
That is important.
Yeah. I was saying while I was watching the event, I'm like, your average American puts this watch on, and it goes poof, and just blows up. Because there's no way that anyone is healthy enough to be wearing this thing. Mm-hmm. It's just going to alert you of your morbidity.
Do I really want to be constantly reminded of everything I've done to my body?
You have one beer and it's like, sir, I think you've had enough.
I think you've had enough.
Take it off.
Yeah.
Now, aside from obviously the newer, better versions of that Apple Watch and, of course, the iPad, which is also oddly named, like everything else in tech these days. It's very confusing.
What's going on with names lately? We'll get to some weird names after this.
Yeah, the cheap iPad is now the expensive iPad based on the name or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, the biggest news out of Apple's event was Apple One. It's a bundle of Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, iCloud storage, and Apple Fitness Plus for just $15. And I would say typically your average person uses about 2 of those. So they're like, why not? I'll get the rest.
Yeah.
It's a pretty great deal if you're into the Apple stuff already, specifically the cloud backups.
Yeah.
And in Apple's defense, the new iPhones, they got delayed a few weeks, so they're having another Apple event in mid-October for that.
COVID. Sorry, guys. COVID.
Sorry. Based on the leaks, though, the iPhone 12 will have 4 different models in 3 different sizes. iPhone 12, iPhone 12 mini, iPhone 12 Max, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. God, I hate tech now. We really peaked in 2012.
We did.
After that,
we had everything we needed, and then now they're just trying to figure out problems that don't exist to solve for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, yeah. Anyways, that's Apple for you. Speaking of phones, though, Google had their 2020 Made by Google event this week, and they did, in fact, show off their new phones, among a bunch of other stuff. We're both Pixel 3 users who were kind of disappointed by the Pixel 4, so let's see what this Pixel 5 is all about. Okay, well, turns out it's a bit more confusing than that, actually. I mean, yes, there is a Pixel 5, but the full product line of current Pixel phones is now somehow more confusing than what Microsoft has managed to do with the Xbox brand.
Yeah.
This was hurting my head, comparing the stats on all 3 of them.
I get it. It's just I think the problem with Google's release schedule was that their typical lower cost models were the ones that were delayed.
Yeah,
they were delayed.
The mid-range ones got delayed until August. So
which is last month. It's October now.
Yeah, it was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's what kind of shifts things a bit. And then they have what's titled under their mid-range coming out in a month from now.
Yeah, and supposedly development on what they wanted out of the Pixel 5 got delayed by COVID. So yeah, they just had their mid-range shit delayed up until 2 months ago, and now it's still not a full generational shift.
Yeah, this is gonna be the lost Pixel phone for sure, because it goes 2 years back on some tech, and then 2 years in the future on some other things, and it's what are you doing?
I mean, they seem like good phones, but there's some odd choices here across the board.
I'll get to why I didn't order it after this. But back in August, less than 2 months before the latest Pixel event, Google started selling the Pixel 4a, which, unlike what the name might imply, wasn't just a mid-generation upgrade. It was basically a brand new design with many of the same components, but also featuring a pinhole selfie camera and the return of the rear fingerprint scanner. And that's all for less than half the price of the Pixel 4. So with the Pixel 4a phone freshly on the market, Google's 2 new phones for this next generation are the Pixel 5, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, okay.
And the Pixel 4a 5G.
getting dyslexia from all this shit.
Yeah, as the name implies, the biggest change with this new generation compared to the phone that they just released over the summer is 5G connectivity. So it'll give you COVID straight into your ear.
Woo!
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Take me, Mr. Bill Gates. Take me.
Sarah Watch Wiki or whatever. That is a joke.
Sarcasm. We're not into that. We're not into that conspiracy shit. I'm actually pretty excited about 5G.
I'm looking forward to it.
But the Pixel 4a 5G is not just the 4a with 5G. It's, again, a completely different device from the normal 4a. It has a slightly larger screen, has a new rear camera that's the same as what's on the Pixel 5. The Pixel 5, meanwhile, is slightly smaller than the Pixel 4a 5G, but slightly larger than the Pixel 4a. The 4a starts at $349, the 4a 5G starts at $499, and the Pixel 5 starts at $699. But as for what advantages the extra $200 gets you from the 4a 5G to the Pixel 5, doesn't really seem like much.
No.
I mean, there's 8 gigs of RAM versus 6. There's a slightly bigger battery. There's a better screen refresh rate for all you gamers, better water resistance, and this one actually has both wireless charging and the ability to wireless charge other devices. That's cool, but it's not a lot. And all that plus, again, a slightly smaller screen than the phone that costs $200 less. Meanwhile, the Pixel 4a and 4a 5G, both of those have a headphone jack, while the Pixel 5 does not. But on the bright side, Google has entirely abandoned the face unlock feature from the Pixel 4. They've also brought back the rear fingerprint button for all 3 devices.
Which is great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
The Face ID shit, I was like, you know what? I
did not get the 4 because of it.
This is a bridge too far. I'm not going to fucking biometrically scan my face every time I want to unlock my phone.
I did a race with my wife. She has the iPhone that has the face unlock, and I pulled mine out it's ready to go.
Yeah.
But so as far as the headphone jack, listen, as sad as it is to say, I have completely shifted it to completely wireless.
For me, it's just my car is so old that
Oh, you need the cassette tape?
I use the dongle adapter, and that means I can't charge while I'm listening.
There you go.
It's a very minor inconvenience.
You see, I plug it in and it has the Android Auto, which is
Android Auto is fantastic. Love it.
But bringing back the fingerprint scanner, completely on board.
Yeah.
Having it be $700, I was like, look, here's the thing for everyone else watching out there. I didn't pre-order it, and I always skip a generation. I thought I was going to get into this one. Here's the thing, though. It's not big enough of a leap for me to put the money down, and historically, every Black Friday, it's at least $100 to $150 off, and if you can just wait until February, the Pixel 5 will be $300 cheaper.
I got my Pixel 3, I bought it 2 months after the phone launched because it was some random day where it was half off. I'm like, all right, well, fuck it. Yeah, I'll get it.
And the less of us that buy it, the bigger the discount's going to be in a month.
That's right. They got a lot of units that they need to not sell.
Also, I have a crack on my screen because I'm a fucking 16-year-old girl, and the problem that I can't say that I'm responsible for is that the charge no longer lasts as long as it once did, and the charging port itself is finicky.
You got to go in there you got to turn it off and go in there with a paper clip. I pulled out so much fucking lint out of my charging port recently. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Well, having said that, if I was just looking for a slight upgrade to be able to use it, I would just get the 4a 5G because you get 5G with it for a ridiculously cheaper price.
That's probably I'm more interested in that one than the Pixel 5 because it has a bigger screen.
Did you watch all the other shit in this?
Yeah.
Mark Ronson doing the speaker.
Yeah, very cool, Mark.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea that they set up an apartment with 8 Nest speakers so you can listen to everything. I'm like, it's an apartment. One'll work.
But now there's 8.
Yeah. I have an Alexa in the bedroom, and I can hear music from the living room.
Put one in the toilet.
Yeah.
Put one...
in the bidet.
Yeah.
Play my poop music.
Blast that. Use bass to blast that shit out of my butthole.
Yeah, well, I have it so that when I, go number 2, it does the coin sound from Mario, and it has a sensor on it. It's fun for everyone.
Yeah.
So while in every previous year there's just been a Pixel and a Pixel XL, and then 6 months later they do mid-range starting a couple years ago. Now we've got 3 phones that are only ever so slightly different than each other.
Except in price.
Yeah. As for new software features, those are coming only to the Pixel 5 and Pixel 4a 5G for now. They will come to some older Pixel phones.
Yeah.
Usually it's pretty quick. They want to get you to buy the phone, but then like January, they'll be like, all right.
Like, there's really no reason why we
go.
can't let everyone else have this.
It's a software thing,
Yeah.
There's Hold for Me, which lets you go do other stuff while you're waiting on hold, which is fine, but a lot of the industry's already solved that by doing callbacks, which is great.
Yeah.
Google will call you or let you get back on the phone when the hold thing is done. It's cool. It's useful.
Yeah.
There's Portrait Light, which is basically a virtual 3D light source that you can add to portraits after the fact in Google Photos. Again,
Pretty cool, yeah. I like that.
There's Portrait Mode in Night Sight, which lets you blur the backgrounds in portraits now taken in low light.
It's like 2 features combined.
And again, Night Sight is one of the best features that Google's released in many years.
I've taken some crazy pictures with Night Sight where like it's literally you can't see shit. And you just hold up the camera and take the picture and you're like, oh, wow.
Good premise for a horror movie as well.
Yeah.
There's also 3 new stabilization modes for video. Locked basically removes the shakiness to create a static shot. Active for when the photographer and the subject are both moving a whole lot. And Cinematic Pan, which is a combination of stabilization and slow motion. There's also a new extreme battery saver for all you ravers out there who want to go all night long. And that's a mode that cuts down on functionality even more than the standard battery saver. It's like if you're at Coachella or Electric Daisy Carnival, and you're not going to have service anyway. You put that on, and you're going to be the only one that has that phone charge at 3 a.m. when you're drunkenly searching for your friends.
It's true. Even with the standard battery saver, that's happened to me a bunch of times. Everyone's
Anytime
like,
I go to a show,
my phone's dead. I'm like, I still got like 40%, guys.
Anytime I go to a concert, because I'm not going to use my phone anyway, because I'm not a complete asshole, put that on. I mean, I'm the one that has to call the lift at the end of the night, which kind of sucks. But my phone works. It's great.
And in addition to getting rid of Face Unlock, they also got rid of that dumb Project Soli hand gesture stuff from the Pixel 4 that apparently no one cared about, despite it being a new flagship feature that Google made a big deal about. I completely forgot that was even a thing.
If it's on the home device where it's sitting on a countertop and you're cooking or something, sure. But you're already holding
in my
the phone.
hand already. Like, I'm going to put the phone down, like mounted, so I can do some fucking Tom Cruise minority. Yeah, shut up. I'm going to swipe it with my finger.
Good. I'm glad that the society told them they were wrong.
Yeah, I would love to see the statistics. I'm sure no one was using this feature. Also, anyway, buying either the 5 or 4A 5G also gets you 3 free months of Stadia Pro, 3 free months of Google Premium, and 100 gig storage with Google One. But also, if you've ever actually paid for Stadia Pro or for YouTube Premium before, you get neither of those.
Enjoy.
Sorry, folks. So overall, this new generation of Pixel phones, it might be the most marginal year-to-year update that we've ever seen from any major phone manufacturer. It's remarkable.
The only way they could have done this better, the only way that they could have made this good is by putting it out at a discounted price. $700 for this is not worth it.
Yeah, my only motivation to buy any of these phones is the fact that my current phone is experiencing planned obsolescence in like the battery and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I looked at this and I'm like, nah, this can last at least another 6 months.
Yeah. And honestly, at this point,
you change the phone background, it feels like a brand new phone.
Honestly, if something happens, I would just order another refurbished
They're
Pixel
like $150.
3.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
We're so old now.
Yeah.
What are you doing buying new phones?
Unless you're like really into Pixel phones, like some sort of weirdo, or you really want 5G, which is understandable.
Well, but everyone's at home. They have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but 5G is faster than my home Wi-Fi, honestly.
I agree. Look, I agree. I want the 5G. I'm just saying there's not enough reasons for me to go pay $700 for a phone right now.
Yeah. But yeah, unless you're into any of that, there's really just not a lot to be excited about here. And that's especially obvious in a year where so many other companies are just getting really weird with their phones. They bend and they fold and they twist. That LG Wing phone, I saw that like 2 months ago. I'm like, that's stupid. But like the more I see of it, I'm like, it's kind of cool actually.
Yeah, it seems like a real beta testing year.
Yeah.
Like just like put out all the experimental CES shit.
Whatever you got, just put it out there.
Is that the one where you hold it and then it flips like a sidekick? But
yeah, there's a second screen or half of a second screen underneath the first screen, so it goes into like a T shape.
It's dumb.
I don't know. I watched I watched one of those teardown channels like disassemble it, and I'm like, it's a really, really cool device. Very interesting build.
Look, I think the new Samsungs are great and they're super powerful. I just don't like their reskinned operating system.
Not a fan.
It's filled with bloatware. I think Facebook's like mandatory too. You can't even delete it.
Yeah.
Anyways, Google, they also announced their latest version of Chromecast, which actually does have some pretty big changes and looks really cool, especially for the price.
Yeah.
Previously, Chromecast needed to be controlled by a phone or a computer, unlike standalone devices like Roku. But the new Chromecast is much like those other devices now, with a dedicated remote that has a microphone for voice commands, plus dedicated buttons for YouTube and Netflix. This new generation of Chromecast is called Chromecast with Google TV, which, if you're keeping track, was already a thing like a decade ago.
Yeah, that was a discontinued service.
But it's back,
They're
baby.
bringing that back.
And it's, from what I've seen, a lot better.
Yeah.
Google TV is the new operating system and user interface for browsing through your various streaming services with the remote. It only costs $50, which is actually great. It's cheaper than Roku, and it looks as fluid as the Roku Pro, which is
and
great.
It's the thing that appeals to me most about Google TV, the operating system, is like you can basically keep like a watch list of stuff you want to watch in the app. And so, like, if there's a movie you're excited about that you maybe didn't see in theaters or whatever, you add it to your Google TV watch list, and it'll show up on your home screen like when it's out. It'll let you know, like, hey, that movie you wanted to see, we got it over on this service.
It's the same reason that I like Roku. Everything's conveniently on one UI that isn't a fucking gaming console. It uses just a remote that you turn on. It's fluid. It's great. I'd like to see some more real world tests. I do have Roku systems already, so I'm not really like eager to replace them. But I'm really interested in this because it looks like a great product. So
I'm 100% getting this because my LG TV, just like every smart TV, after like a year or two, they just stop updating the smart TV like OS. So like randomly, my YouTube app just no longer works anymore. It gets an error message.
There you go.
My Hulu app doesn't work anymore.
Well, you'll probably really like this because I love, everyone fucking knows, I love my Roku. I'm pissed that HBO Max isn't on it.
You're a big Roku boy. Anyway, in general, it seems like the global pandemic, it probably slowed things down a bit at Google as well as Apple, which makes sense. Over at Amazon, though, a company with a much worse reputation for overworking its employees, they had a lot more to show off at their event last week. The biggest reveals being a brand new cloud gaming service and a flying indoor security drone.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So let's start with Luna, not the K-pop group, the cloud gaming service from Amazon that's meant to compete with Stadia and xCloud. At $5.99 a month, it's cheaper than either of those other services, and it's going to launch with more than 100 titles ready to play, so more than Stadia currently has.
What happened to Stadia releasing like 200 games this year?
COVID, you know, guys, coronavirus.
It clogged up the pipes.
Yeah, what are you going to do? So like with Stadia, Luna has its own controller that you can buy, which connects directly to your Wi-Fi router and it's supposedly more responsive. But Xbox and PlayStation controllers will also be compatible, along with keyboard and mouse when you're playing via computer.
Yeah, the $5.99 subscription cost, it only covers so much of the library, though. There will apparently be additional curated channels, starting with a Ubisoft channel. That costs more, but it also allows access to brand new games the day that they launch, like the upcoming Far Cry 6 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. When Luna launches sometime this month, it'll be available on Fire TV, PC, Mac, and iOS devices. So no Android, at least at first, though they say the delay will be only a few weeks. Look, xCloud's coming out. Any paid service is going to get demolished by this. And typically these companies give up on things that aren't immediately successful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Amazon, I feel like they're like the biggest company on earth. I think they can afford to just sit on this for as long as they want.
It'll be interesting to see,
especially with Twitch,
how they tie it into Prime Gaming.
Yeah.
Like if you can, like once a month they release, like how PlayStation Plus does. It's like 3 games, and it's like you just press this button, and you can play this AAA game in your browser. Would be something that could work with this. But anyways, hold on. How are they able to put this on iOS when Apple has thus far blocked services like Stadia and xCloud on the grounds that they're essentially their own app stores and therefore violate App Store rules? Well, it won't be an app at all. iOS users will simply access Luna via the web browser. And this is apparently totally fine. We're just not really sure why these other services haven't simply tried that, but that's exactly how Stadia operates outside of its Chromecast capabilities.
Yeah.
So
just open up Safari, go to luna.amazon.com or whatever the fuck it is, and
the world is your oyster.
There you go. No app store needed. So, one advantage that Luna will have over the other gaming streaming services, of course, is that Amazon also owns Twitch, which is the #1 video streaming site for gameplay content. They haven't, surprisingly, they didn't go really in-depth with how these things would integrate too much so far. They've only really said that you'll be able to be watching a stream, and if the game is in the Luna library, you just click a button and bam.
It's just the same thing that YouTube promoted. Yeah.
Except I don't know if they actually added that shit to YouTube yet.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the ability to do it, no.
So, I mean, one potential possibility that could happen that some commenters have brought up is the potential for being able to stream your gameplay directly to Twitch at higher quality and lower latency and bandwidth, since Luna and Twitch, they're both running from Amazon servers. They haven't said whether this will be a feature, but you would assume that if Luna can instantly beam 1080p 60 footage to the player, it could also simultaneously beam that same 1080p 60 footage to Twitch.
Yeah, and then take the strain off your computer.
Yeah, like you would think. You'd have the best looking streams possible.
Then it would become, Twitch streaming would become more accessible to more people who don't have a streaming computer.
Yeah.
So that's the latest entry into the already crowded game streaming space. But Amazon's most surprising announcement was the Ring Always Home Cam. I didn't think this was real when I started seeing it.
It looks like an April Fool's joke.
It's a $250 flying camera drone that takes off from its dock in the event that your other Ring devices detect a break-in while you're away. When you first set it up, you create a flight path for it to check all the important areas in your home. And when it's activated, either automatically by a break-in or manually, if you're just feeling a little paranoid in the middle of the night, I guess, it goes on patrol and streams video directly to your Ring app wherever you are. The key advantage here is that instead of installing security cameras in every room of your home that are constantly running, this one $250 camera can observe the whole house by itself, only when it's needed. So while a flying robot security drone seems dystopian on its surface, I don't know, is it really any more dystopian than capturing everything that happens in your house on Amazon cameras and sending that footage to Amazon servers anyway? Plus, it's a fun toy for the dogs and cats.
Yeah. Yeah. You just activate it. Your dogs are at home. They're bored as shit.
It should have a couple of treats in the stand so it can drop them off.
Yeah. From a human perspective, I'm like, ew, what the hell? But from a dog or cat's perspective,
fun.
Very exciting.
Yeah, something to do every day.
A lot of potential here.
Yeah, if you're going on like a weekend trip or something like that, it's keeps the animals busy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a free one for you, Bezos.
Yeah. Have it carry little treats.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, as for the rest of what Amazon showed off, the new Echo and Echo Dot smart speakers are now spherical instead of cylindrical. There's an Echo Dot that costs $10 more and it gets you a built-in illuminated clock display. Okay. And the new Echo Show, the Echo that has a touch display and camera, it now pivots to follow you around the room. In other Ring stuff, there's a vehicle dash cam, a connected car alarm, and a device that uses a car's built-in external cameras to capture video. And if you're feeling really paranoid, and if you're a Ring customer, you probably are, there's a Ring mailbox sensor that lets you know when your mailbox has been opened.
Yeah, I mean, cool, the mail's here.
Yeah.
Also, I would love to see an integration with Ring and Twitch where it's essentially just a cloud-based, red zone version of Russian dash cam videos.
Yeah.
Like anytime an accident happens, it just replays that on a Twitch stream that just has from all over the country. Just the best accidents as they happen.
It says here in the TOS that if I get in a car accident, Twitch owns that footage?
Yeah.
What's that about?
And they're constantly monetizing
Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
You get in a silly accident, people are just mocking you with emotes in the chat. Look at this fucking idiot. Anyways, it's interesting that Amazon has made Ring into a brand of automated products for people who are already extremely concerned about the safety of themselves and their property, when according to a recent report from Reveal, automation at Amazon's fulfillment centers has increased serious injuries for workers by 50% compared to Amazon warehouse without robots. According to leaked internal documents, Amazon's injury rates have gone up each of the past 4 years as automation has also increased. And unsurprisingly, Reveal also found that injuries spiked during the weeks of Prime Day and Cyber Monday, when the amount of orders goes up significantly. The most dangerous Amazon facility, according to these documents, is the warehouse in DuPont, Washington, where last year there were 22 serious injuries per 100 workers, compared to the industry average of just 4 serious injuries per 100 workers. So not great.
Seems bad.
And Prime Day is right around the corner. It's October 13th or something. It's in the middle of the month.
Someone needs to make a Chrome widget for every time you purchase an Amazon thing. There's it gives you a likelihood that your purchase is going to severely injure someone.
Yeah, it's a yearly. It's one of those human bodies, but it fills up like a thermometer.
Yeah.
Where the amount of packages you order, you've increased the risk of a human death by a certain amount.
Yeah.
Oh.
Someone should make that.
Another good idea.
But anyways, hold on. Isn't automation supposed to reduce the workload of human employees and therefore make things safer for everyone? What's happening here? Are people being attacked by these robots? No, actually, the reasons are much more mundane and cynical than that. Turns out that when the robots showed up, Amazon just increased worker quotas dramatically to keep up with the robots. From the article, the robots were too efficient. They could bring items so quickly that the productivity expectations for workers more than doubled, according to a former senior operations manager who saw the transformation. And they kept climbing. At the most common kind of warehouse, workers called pickers, who previously had to grab and scan about 100 items an hour, were expected to hit rates of up to 400 an hour at robotic fulfillment centers. According to Kathleen Fagan, a physician who inspected Amazon warehouses in her capacity as a medical officer for the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, studies have shown that production rates have a direct impact on injuries. Quote, if you've got robots that are moving product faster and workers have to then lift or move those products faster, there will be increased injuries, she said. Doing the same motion over and over again, quickly and without a break, doesn't allow muscles to rest. Increased physical and mental stress leads to distraction and exhaustion, which also increase injuries, studies show.
This is literally when Dwight faces off against the robot in the office.
Yeah.
Tries to sell more reams of paper. Also from the article, Austin Wendt left his job as an EMT for a private ambulance company in 2016 to take a higher paying role running the first aid clinic at Amazon's warehouse BFI3 in DuPont. Eventually, he became the only person responsible for safety at the warehouse during his shifts. A safety specialist had quit and wasn't replaced. His manager, he said, was rarely on site. Overworked and overwhelmed, Wendt was being asked to do things he wasn't trained to do, he said, such as ergonomic assessments of workstations. Quote, I never had support from my boss or senior leadership to do my job effectively or enforce safety, he said. Quote, there's so much to do and you're so far behind and there's so many injuries that you could just never get caught up. He'd watch workers heave heavy bags of dog food and cat litter all night, tens of thousands of pounds in some cases, he estimated, and the workers had to do it quick. Under constant pressure to hit ever-increasing production rates, they took shortcuts, he said. Instead of climbing a ladder to grab a heavy item off a top shelf, workers would get on their tiptoes and reach. Or they'd bend over instead of squatting to grab a bag and then twist to pull it down quickly. They'd grab a heavy tote off a conveyor belt with one hand while pressing a button on a computer screen with the other. The extra hours and fatigue and stress of peak times compounded the problem. Quote, I'd have managers sitting there watching these people work very improperly, and they don't say anything because it's about rate and productivity.
Yeah. So something that's especially fucked up from this article is the fact that Amazon warehouses offer workers rewards for injury-free streaks, like a pizza party for going 1 month without injuries or something like that.
So great.
So workers will sometimes work through injuries and not report them to avoid disappointing their coworkers and being the guy who got the pizza party taken away.
This is like fucking boot camp in the Army.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're all doing an extra 15 minutes of PT in the morning because dumbass couldn't use soap in the shower.
If one person gets injured, you all get punished.
Yeah.
How about that? Mm-hmm. So that's extremely bleak. And also bleak is the fact that Amazon definitely knows that this is all a problem and why it's a problem, but they don't do anything about it. An internal investigation into the injury rate at one warehouse literally quotes an employee as saying, the work requires me to move too quickly, so I am forced to either cut corners or not make rate. Anyways, wow. That Reveal article, it's a long read, and it's the latest in an ever-increasing pile of reports that we've talked about over the years about this problem at these warehouses. But yeah, it's worth a read if you're into getting upset about how poorly the world's richest man treats the people who created that wealth for him.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos killed Barnes & Noble. Jeff Bezos killed Sears. If you haven't seen the Spirit Halloween theme song, do yourself a favor and go find it on Twitter. Also, did you see the update? Spirit Halloween sent him some money to his Venmo.
I don't know if they sent him the $30,000 he asked for.
I don't think so, but I would love to see a collab between Neil Cicierega and him.
What's his name? Nick
I feel bad because he follows me on Twitter, but the Spirit Halloween theme song guy. You'll find it.
Nick Bongino.
Yeah. Anyways, we've got more news for you coming up, but first, this episode is sponsored by Stitch Fix.
That's where I got this shirt.
Don't you wish every clothing store you shopped at had only your size, what styles you like, and at a price that you want? Well, Stitch Fix is a company focused on making that happen. Stitch Fix is an online personal styling company that makes getting the clothes you love effortless. It's a completely different way to shop that's all about you every time. To get started, go to stitchfix.com/newsday to set up your profile, and they'll deliver great looks personalized just for you in your colors, styles, and within your budget.
You pay a $20 styling fee for each fix, which is credited towards anything you keep, Schedule at any time. There's no subscription required. Plus, shipping, returns, and exchanges are easy and free. Stitch Fix does the hard work for you, making great style effortless for everybody, including men, women, and kids. Get started today at stitchfix.com/newsday, and you'll get 25% off when you keep everything in your fix. That's stitchfix.com/newsday for 25% off when you keep everything in your fix. stitchfix.com/newsday.
All right, now let's check in on 2 ongoing tech sagas. We got updates, folks. You might not be happy with them, but they are updates nonetheless. Apple versus Epic Games and TikTok versus the U.S. government. Ding, ding. First up, Apple versus Epic has, of course, expanded to be more like Apple versus everyone since Epic fired the first shot in this war by circumventing App Store rules with Fortnite Mobile and getting themselves banned. Last week, Epic and its allies even formed its own official team of superheroes, or supervillains, depending on your perspective on the position. Tim Apple, not very happy with this. Yeah. They are supervillains. It's called the Coalition for App Fairness. And it includes Epic Games, Spotify, Tile, and Match Group, who own a bunch of different dating apps. Plus a few other companies, including Prepare, the meal planning app Apple is suing because their pear-shaped logo is apparently too close to theirs and it violates Apple's apple-shaped trademark.
Dumb.
This coalition, which is open to more companies joining, is basically going to be pooling their resources for future litigation against Apple regarding its supposedly anti-competitive practices like the 30% Apple tax on all app transactions.
The Coalition for App Fairness, CFAF.
Yeah, they should have made it a better acronym.
Meanwhile, Facebook is apparently in another fight with Apple over the fact that iOS doesn't allow users to set Facebook Messenger as their default messaging app, which Android does allow. This is apparently Zuckerberg is fuming about this all the time. On the other hand, though, another recent fight we talked about between Apple and Facebook over Apple taking a 30% commission on all ticketing transactions and Facebook events has apparently been resolved, with Apple agreeing to temporarily stop collecting the 30% fee for the rest of 2020.
Oh, good. You mean when there's no events?
Yeah.
Thanks, Apple, you benevolent bastard.
As for the main battleground of Apple versus Epic Games, they actually had their first day in court this week, presenting arguments for and against Epic's request for a temporary injunction to force Apple to put Fortnite back on the App Store. Long story short, Fortnite is not back on the App Store, and this fight isn't likely going to end anytime soon.
No. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers heard both sides' arguments and said, "I think personally this case should be tried to a jury. I want everyone to think about that. I don't think individual judges have the be-all and end-all here." That jury trial would take place in July of 2021 at the earliest, but that's still probably for the best for Epic, since Judge Rogers seemed much more on Apple's side based on various comments like, if we look at this plaintiff and industry, walled gardens have existed for decades. Nintendo has had a walled garden. Sony has had a walled garden. Microsoft has had a walled garden. In this particular industry, what Apple is doing is not much different. It's hard to ignore the economics of the industry, which is what Epic is asking me to do. So,
okay.
Yeah.
She also at one point criticized Epic for essentially creating its own problems, saying, "You were not forthright. You were told you couldn't do your own in-app purchasing option, and you did. You can try all you want, but you're not going to convince anybody that you tried to have Apple approve of it. It's self-harm. You lied about it by omission by not being forthcoming. That's the security issue. As you say, it's not malware, but let's not debate a point. There are plenty of people in the public who consider you guys heroes for what you did, but it's still not honest." Elsewhere, she said, "There is no right to make billions of dollars. Epic made a calculated decision here." So probably can look forward to this fight continuing for at least the next 9 months.
Yeah.
At least. And yeah, depending on the results, could have a huge impact on the tech industry. I don't know.
Might not have any effect at all.
Yeah,
might be a gigantic waste of time.
Yeah, I'm leaning to Epic flying maybe too close to the sun with this one. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Not saying I'm on either side of this. But
imagine having, okay, listen. Imagine by July or whatever, was it July or June next year?
July.
Imagine by then, there's a vaccine. Everything's fine. You can go back to the movies. You can go to Disneyland. You can see your families. A vacation sounds nice, doesn't it? The world is back to normal. You can see friends and family. Then all of a sudden, bam, in the mailbox. A jury summons.
Yeah.
You got to go to court for a gigantic fucking tech case that could potentially take weeks, where you have to sit inside a fucking either a hotel room or go home and talk to no one. People are going to be so pissed. They're going to get this shit out of here.
Yeah.
Epic, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
If I was a juror on that trial, also, in case I get the summons, I'm just putting it out here now, so I'm a very partial
it's
juror.
going to be up in the Bay Area, probably.
Okay, good, yeah. nobody wants to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of the courts, the TikTok saga, which also has no end in sight, continued this past weekend with a judge ruling at the last minute that the Trump administration's plan to ban new TikTok downloads starting last Sunday would be blocked. Because despite the deal between ByteDance and Oracle and Walmart that supposedly saved TikTok from being banned in the US, the Trump administration was still planning on blocking downloads and updates to the app, presumably until the deal was like fully officially completed. But that's not happening, at least for now. The Trump administration still, though, has a November 12th deadline when they plan to not only stop TikTok downloads, but also just like completely shut down TikTok operations in the US. That's not too far from now. The judge declined to block that deadline, so yeah, I guess we'll see what happens over the next 6 weeks. The story never ends.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Anyways, remember a story we covered a few months back about how a bunch of high-ranking eBay employees got in trouble with the law for coordinating an extended and complex harassment campaign against some random blogger who criticized them?
Oh, it's my favorite.
How could you forget? It consisted of, but wasn't limited to, sending random packages to the victim's home, including a Halloween mask of a pig covered in blood, a pig fetus preserved in a jar, a bunch of live insects and spiders, a funeral wreath, and a book about grieving the loss of a spouse. They also mailed a bunch of porn to the victim's neighbors, but with the name, address to the victims. And they signed up the victims' email addresses and phone numbers to a bunch of places and flooded them with spam.
Yeah, they also ordered a bunch of pizzas to the victim's home. They posted Craigslist listings for week-long sex parties at their address. They used anonymous Twitter accounts to harass and dox them. And they tailed them on the road. They even at one point tried to break into the victim's garage to plant a GPS tracker in their car, but they fucked that up. This was all because the victim said some not so nice things about eBay on a blog. Anyways, the latest is that 4 of those former eBay employees involved in the harassment reportedly plan to plead guilty next week. They include eBay's former senior manager of global intelligence, former manager of eBay's Global Intelligence Center, former senior manager of special operations, and former intelligence analyst. Notably absent from any charges, though, is eBay's former CEO, Devin Wenig, who reports indicate was almost certainly the one who kicked the whole thing off after the victims did a blog post about how he made 152 times the salary of his employees. No, we are going to ruin these people's lives. Yeah, so anyway, this whole thing, extremely weird and embarrassing for everyone involved, and hopefully someone makes a movie about it someday, because
Such a good movie.
The original story about it, like the court documents, I was reading dozens of pages of legal documents about this, just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Who do
Well,
these people think they are?
The good news for everyone pleading guilty, one day we'll get out of jail, and there are no shortage of gigantic companies who look at this and will say, these guys will do fucking anything.
Yeah.
Like,
They got caught that time.
and they're loyal.
Very loyal.
They didn't throw the CEO under the bus.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have a
them for
very
the team.
fruitful future.
Yeah.
Buy them out, boys.
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's it for this. It is
100
degrees in
It's
here.
103 degrees. It's
roasting.
October 1st, by the way. It's October. It's 103 degrees
Yeah,
out.
I feel ill.
The good news is it gets down to the 90s next week, and then presumably the week after it'll get down to the 80s.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So yeah, please check out the most recent episode of
Learn about Trump's taxes right
Trump's
over here.
taxes, and then Weekly Weird News over here, where I don't even remember what we talked about.
Yeah, we'll be back for a new episode of News Dump really soon, and there's some fun stuff to talk about there. So we'll see you for that. In the meantime, make sure the bell's clicked, make sure the button's subscribed to, hit the like button, and enjoy your day.
See ya.
Bye.